Welcome back. It was late last night after the conclusion of the address, and as Andrew can tell you, and I've covered my share of State of the Unions, when it ends, there's different feeding points, whether it's in Statuary Hall or in the Rotunda or in the Cannon Building. When they let out, lawmakers, like moths to a flame, will go to the cameras so that they can speak to their constituents, say whether they liked or didn't like what they heard in the State of the Union, and they'll give their 2 cents. Usually, their fight to get pole position here because this is their one attempt to speak on policy and not on a problem. So with that, Andrew had a host of people lined up in queue. We spoke to a few, but the other New York media were there as well. And one lawmaker in particular had an exchange where he didn't think he was on camera for that has gotten as much attention, if not more, than even what the president had to say last night today. So if you didn't happen to have a chance to see it, here is New York Congressman Michael Grimm in the immediate aftermath of an interview that he conducted with New York One. Take a look.
And just finally, before we let you go, since we have you here, we haven't had a chance to kind of talk about some of the...
I'm not speaking about anything that's off topic. This is only about the president.
Well, what about...
Thank you.
All right, so Congressman Michael Grimm does not want to talk about some of the allegations concerning his campaign finances. We wanted to get him on camera on that, but he, as you saw, refused to talk about that. Back to you. Why?
Let me be clear to you. Yeah, to do that to me again, I'll turn you this.
I just wanted to ask you. Why? It's a valid question.
You tell me what No, you're not mad. You're not mad. Like a boy.
I'll break you in half like a little boy, and that was after he was going to bleeping throw him off the balcony. Okay, but that's not all. Now, this exchange happened. I don't know why the rocket scientist couldn't figure out he was just on TV conducting a TV interview because the big camera and the lights above it are staring right at him, but somehow he didn't figure out that we have a thing called a record button when you do these things. So the congressman was pressed on that very exchange. Well, he emailed members of the media after the confrontation, not with contrition, but with the following. Congressman Grimm says, "I was extremely annoyed because I was doing New York One a favor by rushing to do their interview first in lieu of several other requests. The reporter knew that I was in a hurry and was only there to comment on the State of the Union, but insisted on taking a disrespectful and cheap shot at the end of the interview. Because I did not have time to speak off topic, I verbally took the reporter to task, that's one way of putting it, and told him off because I expect a certain level of professionalism and respect, especially when I go out of my way to do that reporter a favor. I doubt that I am the first member of Congress to tell off a reporter, and I'm sure I will not be the last." Okay. That reporter, whose eyes grew quite wide, is named Michael Scotto, and he tweeted this morning that Grimm, after that salvo and the criticism that immediately followed, actually called him later to finally apologize. He said to the reporter that he overreacted, and the reporter says that he accepts his apology. Okay. Now, there's a lot of ways to take this on here. We've all had exchanges with lawmakers or wannabe lawmakers that gets real ugly after the exchange happens. I've been told where I could go a few times, but I was never physically threatened to be thrown off a balcony. And then, God forbid the guy's caught. The idea that he would have the nerve to say he was doing a favor to speak to his constituents, okay, because that's who's the viewers there in that particular channel. He was disrespected because he was asked a legitimate question about an ongoing investigation to do with campaign finance reform. And that he didn't see initially, Andrew, after caught on camera, that what he did was wrong. I mean, there's so many ways to go about this. It's unbelievable.
Before I lay into Congressman Grimm, and I will in just a second, the doing the favor part, I understand what you're saying, but I've asked, and like, you know, Congressman Jim Himes out of Connecticut, or last night Jerry Nadler, went out of their way to make sure they got to our position and do that interview. So there is, I understand.
They're getting something out of it, too.
Right, but I'll give the congressman that. Having said that, that's just inexcusable behavior from a sitting member of Congress, and to me it's a sign that the strain of all of these investigations is beginning to really take its toll on Congressman Grimm. What's more, I've interviewed Congressman Grimm at the State of the Union after one of these things a couple of years ago, and it was after the fundraising issue first came to light, and there were accusations about somebody breaking a window at one of his campaign offices, and we did the interview. And I asked him afterwards, I said, by the way, while you're here, I want to get your response to what's happening here. The same set of questions, and he answered the question. It's kind of what you expect when you're part of the game. When Dominic interviewed Anthony Weiner, when Anthony Weiner was running for mayor, Dominic didn't say, I'm going to ask you about the texting thing, but you had to figure it was going to come up, and he was fine to answer it. And that happens all the time. We had Elliot Spitzer on the show, and we asked him about what happened when he was. If you're in the news for something other than what you're doing the interview for, it has to come up, or we're not doing our job.
You're supposed to be a big boy or a big girl here. It comes with the territory. And by the way, it's not an innuendo or a rumor. There's an ongoing, announced investigation with subpoenas and everything going on right now. He had to know the question was coming. But then to go threaten a member of the media. And listen, I know half you guys at home couldn't care less about the media, and I get it. Believe me, I get it, okay?
It is a long drop, by the way, from that we're done.
But it is a long drop.
Yeah.
And he got up in his face on that and twice threatened to do it and break him like a little boy. I mean, I've heard threats, but that's going, and Mike or Cameron from Staten Island is nodding along, that's going over the line.
You want to mouth off to a member of the press, it happens. It's part of the, we don't like it. Well, I'd rather it not happen.
I'm not going to go tell on camera, but this one, everybody would have used that clip. It's not just New York One that would have used it. If he did that to any member of our staff, you bet your you-know-what that would go on the air. He's completely out of line. Now, I haven't heard him, you might have. I haven't heard Grimm being condemned by any of leadership or anything for what he did. I know he apologized on the third try, okay? I heard another interview where they got him in the hallway and there was zero contrition even there. He wouldn't answer the question still anymore. It's only after it got really bad that he did. He had a chance, Andrew, to make things right. And last night he didn't take it. He doubled down on it.
To be fair, I haven't monitored for Rich, but I'm looking at the clip, and I think in the background is our position on the other side, the light on the left, and I'm just looking over.
He was going around to find you.
I'm looking over as jealous, because we wanted Michael Grimm. Yeah. We reached out to his office many times, so it's. I think,
you were positioned right there.
Yeah, I think that's us in the shot there. So there's I would have done the same thing if Grimm had come over for the interview there. If Chris Christie had been wandering around for any reason, I would have asked him about the Bridgegate and gotten his reaction to the State of the Union. It's what we're supposed to do. You want to confront somebody in the media? Fine, we're used to that. That happens. To be such a tough guy that I'll break you in half, I'll throw you off. You're supposed to be a sitting member of Congress. I mean, is that how we're going to conduct business officially? And there is a lot of merit to what you say about the reporters being a conduit to their constituents. I don't, whatever. It's a job. It's what we do. But would he be that disrespectful to a constituent who was asking him a question at a town hall? Is that conduct that's worthy of a member of Congress? I mean, that was...
And it was a completely legitimate question. I don't know Michael Scotto.
He answered that question for me years before.
And I have, I've never met the young man, but he was not only within his rights, he was doing his job the way he was supposed to. And Grimm not only being out of line here, I think we got a little window into what kind of guy he is. And it's not the first time I've heard that he's gone over the line here. We didn't like his treatment.
And you know who was probably smiling watching the whole thing is Vito Fossella, the former congressman who's been positioning himself for a running case. Grimm can't get to the starting gate. Looks a lot more today like Grimm can't get to the starting gate.
We will come back to obviously a lot of the issues that the president laid out last night in the coming days and weeks here. The president will make this a road show. What he talked about on the issues of income inequality and so much more as he's trying to rally the public here to get Washington moved. But that for another night. When we come back, if you haven't heard, there's a little game that's going on in Jersey this weekend, and Snowmageddon doesn't look like it's going to white it out. We're talking about the Super Bowl, and we're also talking about New York City tonight, where we have Super Bowl Boulevard open for business. We will go live to the location. You're seeing live pictures now. Our own Nancy Ward's on the scene. We're going to check out what's going down in the Big Apple. Stay with us.